The construction site of New Harmony Station buzzed with activity as beings from 12 different species worked together to build humanity's first major space station in the galactic trade zone. Massive steel beams floated through the void, guided by anti-gravity generators and the skilled hands of experienced workers. The station would serve as a crucial hub for human commerce and diplomacy in this sector of the galaxy. Marcus Chen adjusted his environmental suit and checked the work schedule on his tablet. As the human foreman overseeing Section 7, he had 43 alien workers under his supervision, representing 8 different species. The work was challenging, but Marcus had 20 years of construction experience on Earth and had quickly adapted to the unique demands of zero-gravity building. "Attention all workers," Marcus announced through the comm system. "We're behind schedule on the primary support structure. I need Teams Alpha through Delta to focus on beam placement. Team Echo will handle the secondary conduit installation." A deep rumbling sound came through the comm, followed by a translator's mechanical voice. "Foreman Chen, this is Supervisor Vexhai of the Draconian Consortium. My workers question the efficiency of your human methods. Perhaps it would be better if someone with more traditional galactic experience took charge of this section." Marcus sighed. Vexhai had been challenging his authority since the project began 3 weeks ago. The draconian female stood nearly 8 feet tall, with metallic blue scales that gleamed under the work lights. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their physical strength and engineering prowess. They had built some of the most impressive structures in known space, and they weren't shy about reminding everyone of their accomplishments. "Supervisor Vexhai, I appreciate your concern, but the schedule is set by the station authority. We need to follow the agreed timeline," Marcus replied diplomatically. "Human techniques are inefficient," Vexhai's voice crackled through the comm. "Your species has been in space for less than a century. We Draconians have been building stations for over 3,000 years. Perhaps you should step aside and let experienced beings handle this work." Several alien workers stopped their tasks to listen to the conversation. Marcus could see them floating near their workstations, their various forms of communication equipment aimed in his direction. He knew this moment was crucial. If he backed down now, he would lose the respect of his entire crew. "I understand your experience, Supervisor Vexhai. However, I was appointed to this position by the station authority, and I intend to fulfill my duties. If you have specific concerns about our methods, I'm happy to discuss them." A series of clicks and hisses came through the comm system. The other draconian workers were clearly amused by something. Marcus had learned enough about their communication patterns to know they were laughing. "Very well, human," Vexhai said. "But, when your inefficient methods cause delays, remember that I offered to help." Marcus decided to focus on the work rather than continue the argument. He pulled up the construction schematics on his tablet and began reviewing the next phase of beam installation. The primary support structure required precise placement of 12 massive titanium steel alloy beams, each weighing approximately 2 tons in Earth gravity. In the zero-gravity environment of space, weight wasn't an issue, but the mass and momentum of such large objects required careful handling. "Team Alpha, I need you to position Beam 7 Alpha into the primary junction," Marcus instructed. "Use the heavy lift platform and remember to account for rotational momentum when you make the final approach." The team of 4 Zentorian workers acknowledged the order and began maneuvering their anti-gravity platform toward the designated beam. Zentorians were skilled technicians, known for their precision and attention to detail. Their 6-armed physiology made them excellent at complex manipulation tasks. As Marcus watched the beam installation process, he noticed Vexhai floating near the equipment storage area. She was surrounded by 3 other Draconian workers, and they appeared to be having an intense conversation in their native language. Marcus couldn't understand their words, but their body language suggested they were planning something. The Zentorian team successfully positioned Beam 7 Alpha, and Marcus moved on to the next task. "Team Beta, I need you to install the secondary support struts between beams 4 and 5. The connections need to be precise within 2 mm, or the stress distribution won't be adequate for the station's rotation." A high-pitched whine came through the comm system, followed by the translator. "Foreman Chen, this is Engineer Piptar. Our calculations show that human structural requirements are overly conservative.
We could reduce material usage by 15% with proper Zentorian engineering principles.
Marcus rubbed his temples through his helmet. It seemed like every alien supervisor wanted to prove that their species could do the job better than humans. He understood their perspective to some extent. Humanity was the newest member of the Galactic Trade Alliance, and many species viewed them as inexperienced and primitive. Engineer Piptar, I appreciate your analysis, but we need to follow the approved specifications. The station will experience significant stress during rotation startup, and we can't afford any structural failures. Human caution is admirable but inefficient, came another voice through the calm. This time it was from one of the Corblaxian workers. Our species has built 17 rotating habitats. We understand the stress requirements better than young races. Marcus realized that the situation was deteriorating. Multiple alien supervisors were openly questioning his authority and the human approach to construction. He needed to reassert control before the project fell apart completely. All supervisors, please report to the Central Coordination Platform for a project review meeting, Marcus announced. Within 10 minutes, representatives from all 8 alien species had gathered on the large platform that served as the construction site's command center.
Marcus looked at the assembled beings and felt a moment of intimidation.
Each one represented a species with centuries or millennia of spacefaring experience, while humans had only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Vexhai floated in the center of the group, her massive form making even the other large aliens appear small by comparison. Her metallic scales reflected the work lights, creating an almost hypnotic pattern across her body. The crest of spines along her head was fully extended, a sign of aggressive confidence in draconian body language. Foreman Shen, she began, we have been discussing the project's progress. The consensus among experienced spacefaring species is that human methods are causing unnecessary delays. We propose a new approach based on proven galactic engineering principles. Marcus pulled up the project timeline on the main display screen. According to our current progress, we're actually ahead of schedule in several areas. The beam installation is proceeding exactly as planned, and our quality control metrics are well within acceptable parameters. Human measurements are crude, replied Engineer Piptar. Zentorian precision standards would improve efficiency by 28%. Corblaxian stress analysis shows your safety margins are wasteful, added Supervisor Thokran, whose crystalline form sparkled with internal light. We could complete this section in half the time. Marcus felt the weight of centuries of alien engineering experience pressing down on him. These beings had built wonders that humans could barely imagine. Space elevators that stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, rotating habitats that housed billions of people, defensive platforms that could withstand the impact of asteroids. How could he, a human with only 20 years of construction experience, compete with such accumulated knowledge? But, then, he remembered why he had been chosen for this position. The station authority hadn't selected him randomly. They had reviewed hundreds of candidates from multiple species and chosen him based on his track record of completing complex projects on time and under budget. His methods might seem conservative to other species, but they worked. I understand that each of your species has valuable experience and knowledge, Marcus said diplomatically. However, this station is being built according to human specifications for human use. The structural requirements, safety margins, and construction methods have been carefully chosen to meet our specific needs. Vexhai's crest spines flattened slightly, a sign of contempt. Human needs are based on inexperience and fear. Your species builds everything with excessive redundancy because you don't understand the true capabilities of materials and structures. Perhaps, Marcus replied. But excessive redundancy has kept human structures standing for thousands of years. The pyramids in Egypt are still intact after 4.5 millennia. The Golden Gate Bridge survived 2 centuries of earthquakes and storms. Sometimes building something to last is more important than building it quickly. Ancient human monuments are primitive compared to galactic engineering, Vexhai said dismissively. We have structures that have endured for tens of thousands of years while serving billions of inhabitants. Your species' approach is like using stone tools when advanced technology is available. Marcus could see that the other alien supervisors were nodding in agreement with Vexhai. He was losing the argument, and if he lost the respect of these supervisors, the entire project could collapse. He needed to find a way to demonstrate that human methods had value, even if they seemed primitive to more advanced species.
I understand your concerns, Marcus said.
But I was appointed to oversee this project, and I intend to see it through using the methods that have proven successful for humanity. If you're not comfortable working under human supervision, you're welcome to request a transfer to another section. The challenge was subtle but clear. Marcus was essentially calling their bluff. If the alien supervisors really believed human methods were inadequate, they could leave and work elsewhere. But if they stayed, they would be acknowledging his authority. Vexhi's eyes narrowed, and her crest spines began to extend again. You would risk the success of this project to protect your primitive human pride? I would risk the success of this project to ensure it's built according to the specifications that were approved by the station authority, Marcus replied firmly. Those specifications were developed by human engineers with input from multiple alien species. If you don't trust the engineering, you should take it up with the station authority, not with me. The platform fell silent for several minutes as the alien supervisors considered their options. Marcus could feel the tension building as various species engaged in what appeared to be private communications through their bioimplants or technological augmentations. Finally, Engineer Piptar spoke up.
Foreman Chen, we will continue to work under your supervision.
However, we reserve the right to document any inefficiencies or safety concerns for our report to the station authority.
That's your right, Marcus agreed. I encourage all supervisors to document any concerns they have. Transparency is important for the success of this project.
One by one, the alien supervisors acknowledged their agreement to continue working under Marcus's supervision. All except Vexhi, who remained floating in the center of the platform with her arms crossed over her chest. I do not agree to work under incompetent leadership, she announced. However, my contract requires me to complete this project. I will fulfill my obligations, but I will not pretend to respect human authority.
Marcus nodded.
That's all I ask, Supervisor Vexhi. Complete your assigned tasks according to the project specifications, and we'll have no problems. The meeting broke up, and the various supervisors returned to their work areas. Marcus remained on the platform for a few minutes, reviewing the project schedule and making notes about the conversation. He knew that Vexhi would be looking for any opportunity to prove that human methods were inadequate, so he needed to be extra careful to ensure that everything proceeded smoothly. Over the next several hours, work progressed steadily. The alien crews were clearly competent, and, despite their complaints about human methods, they followed instructions precisely. Marcus began to relax slightly as beam after beam was installed in perfect alignment. Then, the accident happened. It started with what seemed like a minor equipment malfunction. One of the anti-gravity generators supporting beam 12 alpha began to fluctuate, causing the massive structure to drift slightly out of position. The Zentorian crew operating the platform tried to compensate, but the beam's momentum carried it toward the partially completed junction where 3 other beams were already installed.
Emergency shutdown on Platform 7. Marcus shouted into his comb, all crews clear the area immediately.
The beam continued to drift, its 2-ton mass moving slowly but inexorably toward a collision that would damage hours of careful work. The anti-gravity generator sparked and died completely, leaving the beam floating free in the zero-gravity environment. Marcus quickly calculated the trajectory and realized that the beam would strike the junction in approximately 30 seconds. He activated his emergency thruster pack and began moving toward the beam, but he knew he wouldn't reach it in time to prevent the collision. Foreman Chen, this is Supervisor Vexhi, came the Draconian's voice through the comm. I am in position to intercept the beam.
Should I intervene? Marcus could see Vexhi's position on his tactical display.
She was indeed close enough to reach the beam before impact, but stopping a 2-ton object, even in zero gravity, required precise application of force and perfect timing.
Affirmative, Supervisor Vexhi. Please intercept and stabilize the beam.
Be careful with the momentum transfer. Vexhi's massive form accelerated toward the drifting beam with surprising grace. Draconians were known for their strength, but Marcus was impressed by her skill in maneuvering through the zero-gravity environment. She reached the beam with seconds to spare and positioned herself to absorb its momentum.
What happened next surprised everyone on the construction site.
Instead of using a gradual force to slow the beam's motion, Vexai simply grabbed it with both hands and brought it to a complete stop in less than 2 seconds. The massive structure, which should have required careful handling by multiple workers with specialized equipment, was controlled effortlessly by a single draconian.
Beam secured, Vexai announced calmly. Where would you like me to position it? Marcus stared at his tactical display in amazement.
He had known that draconians were strong, but he had never seen such a casual display of raw physical power. On Earth, stopping a 2-ton object would require heavy machinery or a coordinated effort by multiple people.
Vexai had done it as easily as a human might catch a thrown baseball.
Position the beam at coordinates 77 Alpha, Marcus instructed.
We'll secure it there until we can repair the anti-gravity platform.
Vexai maneuvered the massive beam into position with fluid precision, demonstrating not only incredible strength but also remarkable control. She placed it exactly where Marcus had requested, aligned to within millimeters of the specified coordinates. As the crisis passed and normal work resumed, Marcus found himself thinking about what he had just witnessed. The display of draconian strength was impressive, but it also highlighted the vast differences between human capabilities and those of other galactic species.
How could he maintain authority over workers who possessed such obvious advantages? The answer came to him during the next shift change.
As he watched the various alien crews going about their tasks, he realized that raw physical strength wasn't the most important factor in successful construction management. Organization, planning, communication, and attention to detail were equally crucial, and these were areas where human methods had proven effective. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that Vexai's intervention had been as much a demonstration of superiority as it had been genuine assistance. The draconian supervisor had made her point: when human technology failed, alien capabilities had saved the project. Marcus decided to focus on his responsibilities rather than worry about political undercurrents.
The station needed to be built, and he had a job to do.
He would prove the value of human methods through results, not arguments. As the shift ended and the day crew prepared to hand over responsibilities to the night crew, Marcus reviewed the progress reports. Despite the equipment failure and the political tensions, they were still on schedule. The beam installation was 60% complete, and the quality control metrics remained within acceptable parameters. He was preparing to sign off for the day when Vexai's voice came through his personal comm channel.
Foreman Chen, I would like to speak with you privately.
Marcus checked his schedule. He had planned to review the next day's work assignments, but a conversation with Vexai might help resolve some of the ongoing tensions.
Certainly, Supervisor Vexai. Where would you like to meet?
The observation deck on level 5. It offers a good view of our work progress. Marcus made his way to the designated meeting point, wondering what Vexai wanted to discuss. The observation deck was a small pressurized compartment that provided a panoramic view of the construction site. It was often used for meetings between supervisors because it offered privacy while allowing them to monitor ongoing work. When Marcus arrived, he found Vexai already waiting. The draconian supervisor had removed her environmental suit, revealing her full imposing stature. Her metallic blue scales seemed to shimmer in the artificial light, and the crest of spines along her head was positioned in what Marcus had learned was a neutral configuration.
Thank you for coming, Foreman Chen, she said.
Her voice was deep and resonant without the mechanical translation overlay. Marcus realized she was speaking directly in Standard Galactic, which meant she wanted this conversation to be understood clearly.
What did you want to discuss, Supervisor Vexai?
She gestured toward the viewport, where the partially completed station structure was visible against the starfield. Your human methods are indeed different from what we are accustomed to in galactic construction. However, I must acknowledge that your organizational skills are adequate. Marcus sensed that this was as close to a compliment as he was likely to receive from the proud draconian.
Thank you.
I'm always interested in learning from more experienced species, but I believe human approaches have their own value.
Perhaps, Vexai replied.
Today's equipment failure could have caused significant damage and delays. Your quick response prevented a serious problem. Your intervention made the difference, Marcus said diplomatically. I couldn't have reached the beam in time to prevent the collision. Vexhi's crest spine shifted slightly, a subtle sign of what might have been amusement. True. But, you recognized the situation immediately and coordinated the response effectively. That is, not unimpressive for a young species. Marcus decided to be direct. Supervisor Vexhi, I get the feeling that this conversation has a purpose beyond reviewing today's incident. What are you really trying to tell me? The draconian supervisor studied him for several moments before responding. You are perceptive. Very well, I will speak plainly. Many of the alien supervisors on this project believe that humans are too inexperienced to manage complex construction projects. They expect you to fail, and some are actively hoping for such failure. And, what do you believe? I believe that experience is valuable, but it is not the only measure of competence. Your species approaches problems differently than we do. Sometimes this leads to inefficiency, but sometimes it provides insights that experienced species might miss. Marcus was surprised by the admission. That's a fairly generous assessment from someone who called my methods primitive this morning. Vexhi's crest spines flattened in what Marcus now recognized as the draconian equivalent of a slight smile. I did not say your methods were sophisticated. I said they sometimes provide useful insights. There is a difference. Fair enough. So what happens now? Now you continue to prove that human leadership can be effective. The other supervisors are watching for any sign of failure. If you succeed in completing this project on time and, within specifications, it will establish precedent for future human involvement in galactic construction projects. Marcus realized the broader implications of what Vexhi was saying. This project wasn't just about building a space station, it was about proving that humanity deserved a place in the galactic community. If he failed, it could set back human advancement for decades. No pressure at all, he said wryly. The best leaders perform well under pressure, Vexhi replied. Time will show whether you are capable of such leadership. As Marcus prepared to leave the observation deck, Vexhi spoke again. One more thing, Foreman Chen. Several supervisors have requested permission to demonstrate their species' superior construction techniques. They claim it would improve efficiency and reduce costs. What kind of demonstrations? Various approaches. Zentorian precision engineering, Corblaxian stress optimization, draconian strength-based assembly methods. Each supervisor believes their species' approach would be better than current human methods. Marcus considered the request carefully. On one hand, such demonstrations could provide valuable learning opportunities and might actually improve the project. On the other hand, they could also be attempts to undermine human authority and prove that alien methods were superior. I'll consider the request, he said finally. But any demonstrations would need to be conducted in a way that doesn't interfere with the main project timeline. A diplomatic response, Vexhi observed. Perhaps human political skills are more developed than I initially assumed. After leaving the observation deck, Marcus spent several hours reviewing the project files and considering his options. The conversation with Vexhi had been enlightening, but it had also highlighted the challenges he faced. He was walking a tightrope between maintaining human authority and acknowledging the valuable contributions of alien expertise. The solution, he realized, was to focus on collaboration rather than competition. Instead of viewing the alien supervisors as challengers to human authority, he could treat them as valuable team members whose expertise could benefit the entire project. The key would be to maintain overall control while still allowing each species to contribute their unique skills. Marcus began drafting a new approach to project management that would incorporate alien expertise while maintaining human oversight. It would require careful balancing, but, if it worked, it could serve as a model for future human-alien collaborative projects. As he worked late into the night shift, Marcus watched the ongoing construction through the viewport in his office. The alien crews worked with impressive efficiency, their various physiologies and technologies adapted to the unique demands of space construction. Zentorian technicians used their multiple arms to handle complex assembly tasks. Corblaxian workers applied their crystalline sensory capabilities to detect stress patterns in metal structures.
Aquatic Selkaran engineers used their fluid movement abilities to navigate complex three-dimensional spaces.
Each species brought unique advantages to the project, but they also brought their own cultural biases and assumptions. The challenge was to harness their capabilities while creating a unified approach to the work. Marcus realized that his success or failure as foreman would depend not just on completing the station, but on proving that humans could effectively lead diverse teams of galactic species. It was a daunting responsibility, but it was also an opportunity to establish humanity's role in the broader galactic community. The next morning would bring new challenges, but Marcus felt more confident about his approach. He had learned valuable lessons from the previous day's events, and he was beginning to understand how to work effectively with his alien supervisors. The project was far from over, but he was starting to believe that human leadership could indeed prove itself worthy of galactic respect. Marcus arrived at the construction site the next morning to find an unusual gathering near the main assembly platform. Representatives from 6 different alien species were clustered around a collection of equipment and materials that hadn't been there the night before. As he approached, he could hear animated discussions in multiple languages, with translation devices working overtime to convert the various communications into standard galactic. Foreman Chen called Engineer Piptar, his 6 Centaurian arms gesturing excitedly toward the assembled materials.
We have prepared demonstrations of advanced construction techniques. Each species will show you superior methods for beam installation and structural assembly.
Marcus examined the setup more closely. The aliens had arranged a series of identical structural components, apparently intended to serve as test pieces for their various demonstrations. Each species had prepared their own tools and equipment, creating a diverse array of technologies that Marcus had never seen before.
I didn't authorize any demonstrations, he said carefully. Our focus needs to remain on the main project timeline.
Supervisor Vexhai emerged from behind a stack of titanium beams, her massive form making the other aliens appear small by comparison. The demonstrations were approved through official channels, Foreman Chen.
Station Authority approved the request last night after reviewing our proposal for efficiency improvements.
Marcus pulled out his communication device and quickly accessed his message queue. Sure enough, there was an overnight communication from Station Authority approving a series of technical demonstrations for process optimization. The message indicated that the demonstrations would be conducted during the regular work period and that any improvements identified would be considered for implementation. He realized that the alien supervisors had gone around his authority by appealing directly to Station Authority. It was a clever political move that put him in a difficult position. He couldn't refuse to allow the demonstrations without appearing to obstruct potential improvements to the project.
Very well, Marcus said.
But I want it clearly understood that these demonstrations cannot interfere with our scheduled work.
We have critical deadlines to meet.
Of course, replied Supervisor Thakran, his crystalline Corblaxian form sparkling with internal light patterns that Marcus had learned indicated excitement.
Each demonstration will be brief and efficient. You will see that galactic engineering principles far exceed human construction methods.
Marcus decided to make the best of the situation. If the aliens were determined to prove their superiority, he would use the opportunity to learn from their techniques while also identifying any potential improvements to the project.
Who wants to go first? He asked.
Engineer Piptar immediately stepped forward.
Centaurian precision engineering will demonstrate optimal beam placement techniques.
Our method achieves positioning accuracy within 0.1 mm while reducing installation time by 35%. The Centaurian engineer moved to one of the test beam assemblies and began connecting a complex array of measurement devices and positioning guides. His 6 arms worked independently but, in perfect coordination, each one handling different aspects of the setup process. Within minutes, he had created an intricate web of laser guides and sensor arrays around the beam. Human methods rely on crude mechanical positioning, Piptar explained as he worked. Centaurian techniques use quantum-calibrated sensors to achieve molecular-level precision.
Watch. The demonstration was indeed impressive.
Piptar's equipment guided the beam into position with fluid grace, making constant micro-adjustments based on feedback from dozens of sensors.
The final placement was absolutely perfect, aligned to tolerances that far exceeded the project requirements.
Installation time, 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Piptar announced proudly.
Positioning accuracy, 0.06 millimeters.
Compare this to human methods requiring 15 minutes with accuracy of only 2 millimeters.
Marcus had to admit that the Zentorian technique was remarkable.
The precision was far beyond what human methods could achieve, and the speed was equally impressive. However, he also noticed that Piptar's equipment was extraordinarily complex and expensive. The quantum sensors alone probably cost more than the entire human beam installation system. Very impressive, Marcus said diplomatically.
What's the equipment cost comparison? Cost is irrelevant when precision is paramount, Piptar replied.
However, if you must know, our system costs approximately 40,000 galactic credits per unit.
Marcus did a quick mental calculation. The human system cost about 200 credits per unit.
The Zentorian system was 200 times more expensive while providing precision that was probably unnecessary for this type of construction project.
Thank you for the demonstration, Marcus said. Who's next? Supervisor Thakran moved forward eagerly. Corblaxian stress analysis will demonstrate superior structural optimization.
Our crystalline physiology allows us to directly perceive stress patterns in solid materials. The Corblaxian supervisor approached one of the test beam assemblies and placed his hands directly on the metal structure. His crystalline form began to glow with internal light, creating beautiful patterns that shifted and changed as he worked. After several minutes of apparent concentration, he stepped back and gestured to a display screen that showed complex mathematical calculations.
Human safety margins are wasteful and inefficient, Thakran explained.
You design structures to withstand 10 times the expected stress load. Our analysis shows that 3 times the expected load provides adequate safety while reducing material usage by 60%. Marcus studied the calculations on the display screen. The mathematics was beyond his expertise, but the conclusions seemed reasonable. If the Corblaxian analysis was correct, they could indeed reduce material costs significantly while maintaining adequate safety margins.
How do you account for unexpected stress events? Marcus asked. Equipment failures, emergency maneuvers, unforeseen impacts?
Thakran's light pattern shifted to what Marcus had learned indicated confidence. Our analysis includes probability calculations for all known stress events.
The safety margin of 3 times normal load accounts for 97.4% of potential scenarios. And the other 2.6%?
Acceptable risk for significant cost savings.
Galactic insurance protocols cover unlikely failure scenarios. Marcus nodded thoughtfully.
The Corblaxian approach was logical from a purely mathematical standpoint, but it represented a very different philosophy than human engineering. Humans tended to build things to last far longer than necessary, while galactic species seemed more willing to accept calculated risks in exchange for efficiency.
Thank you, Supervisor Thakran. Next demonstration?
A new voice spoke up from behind the group.
Aquatic engineering principles offer superior efficiency in 3-dimensional construction environments.
Marcus turned to see Supervisor G.L. Whitar, one of the Selkaran aquatic engineers. The amphibious alien was contained within a mobile water suit that allowed her to work in the station's standard atmosphere. Her species had evolved in the deep oceans of their homeworld, and their fluid movement capabilities made them exceptionally skilled at navigating complex 3-dimensional spaces.
G.L. Whitar's demonstration involved what she called flow-state construction. Instead of positioning beams individually, she used current generators to create artificial fluid flows that could move multiple structural components simultaneously. The technique was mesmerizing to watch, as beams and connectors moved through the air like fish swimming through water. Aquatic principles recognize that space is a fluid medium, G.L. Whitar explained through her suit's translation system.
Human methods treat space construction like surface building, but zero gravity requires 3-dimensional thinking.
Our approach reduces assembly time by 50%.
The demonstration was elegant and efficient, but Marcus noticed that it required extensive pre-planning and positioning of current generators. The technique might work well for certain types of assembly, but it would be difficult to implement in the middle of an ongoing construction project.
Very impressive, Marcus said. What about precision control? How do you handle situations that require exact positioning? Flow state construction achieves precision through harmony rather than force, HFY replied. Multiple components move together in coordinated patterns, finding their natural positions through fluid dynamics rather than mechanical positioning. Marcus was beginning to see a pattern in the alien demonstrations. Each species had developed techniques that took advantage of their unique physiological capabilities or technological innovations. The methods were often superior to human approaches in specific areas, but they also required specialized equipment or abilities that humans didn't possess. Next demonstration, he asked. A new voice rumbled through the comm system. Draconian strength-based assembly offers the most efficient approach to heavy construction. All eyes turned to Supervisor Vexhai as she moved toward the demonstration area. The other aliens stepped back respectfully, creating a clear space around the massive Draconian. Marcus noticed that even the normally confident Zentorians and Corblaxians seemed impressed by Vexhai's presence. Galactic species rely too heavily on mechanical aids, Vexhai announced. Anti-gravity generators, positioning platforms, lifting apparatus. All unnecessary complications. Direct physical manipulation is faster and more reliable. She approached one of the test beam assemblies, which consisted of 4 separate structural components that needed to be connected in a specific configuration. The assembly normally required coordinated work by multiple team members using positioning equipment. Vexhai simply picked up all 4 components simultaneously, holding them in her powerful arms while examining the connection points. Within moments, she had identified the proper configuration and began joining the pieces together. Her movements were surprisingly delicate despite her obvious strength, and she completed the assembly in less than 3 minutes. Installation time, 2 minutes and 41 seconds, she announced. No equipment required. No possibility of mechanical failure. Complete reliability. Marcus was genuinely amazed. He had seen Vexhai stop the runaway beam the previous day, but this demonstration of precise assembly work was even more impressive. She had essentially replaced an entire team of workers and their equipment with her own physical capabilities. That's remarkable, Marcus said. But what about components that are too large or complex for single-person assembly? Draconians work in teams when necessary, Vexhai replied. 2 Draconians can handle any structural component used in this type of construction. No mechanical aids required. As Marcus considered the implications of what he had seen, he realized that each alien species had genuinely superior capabilities in certain areas. The Zentorians offered incredible precision, the Corblaxians provided advanced stress analysis, the Selkarans brought 3-dimensional flow techniques, and the Draconians possessed raw physical power that could replace entire equipment systems. But he also recognized that each approach had limitations. The Zentorian system was extremely expensive. The Corblaxian analysis accepted higher risk levels than human standards allowed. The Selkaran technique required extensive pre-planning. The Draconian method depended on physical capabilities that other species didn't possess. Thank you all for these demonstrations, Marcus said. I'm impressed by the capabilities each species brings to construction projects. However, I noticed that each technique is optimized for specific situations or requires specialized abilities. Human methods may be less sophisticated in any individual area, but they're designed to work consistently across a wide range of conditions and personnel. Engineer Piptar's crest feathers ruffled, and what Marcus had learned was a sign of disagreement. Human generalization leads to mediocrity. Specialized excellence is superior to generalized adequacy. Perhaps, Marcus replied. But this project requires coordination between multiple species with different capabilities. We need methods that everyone can use and understand, not techniques that only work for specific physiologies or technologies. Supervisor Thakran's light pattern shifted to indicate skepticism. Human fear of specialization limits potential efficiency gains. Galactic projects commonly use species-specific techniques for optimal results. Marcus sensed that the conversation was heading toward another confrontation about human versus alien methods. He needed to find a way to acknowledge the value of the demonstrations while maintaining his authority over the project approach. I appreciate all the demonstrations and the insights they provide, he said carefully. I'd like to propose a compromise.
We'll continue using our current methods for the main project timeline, but we'll identify specific tasks where alien techniques might provide clear advantages.
We can implement those improvements on a case-by-case basis.
The alien supervisors exchanged glances and engaged in what appeared to be private communications through their various technological systems. Marcus waited patiently while they discussed his proposal.
Finally, Supervisor Vexai spoke for the group. Your proposal is acceptable. However, we want it clearly documented that human methods are being used despite the availability of superior alternatives. When delays or inefficiencies occur, the responsibility will rest with human leadership. Fair enough, Marcus agreed. I'm willing to take responsibility for the methods we use and the results we achieve.
As the alien supervisors returned to their regular work assignments, Marcus remained on the demonstration platform to review what he had learned. The displays of alien capabilities had been impressive and somewhat intimidating, but they had also highlighted important differences in approach and philosophy between human and galactic engineering. He began to understand why the station authority had appointed a human to oversee this project. While alien species might have superior capabilities in specific areas, human methods offered consistency and reliability that could be applied across diverse teams and situations. The key was to balance human oversight with selective use of alien expertise. Marcus spent the next several hours implementing his compromise approach. He identified specific tasks where alien techniques could provide clear benefits without disrupting the overall project flow. Zentorian precision methods would be used for critical alignment procedures. Corblaxian stress analysis would be applied to optimize material usage in non-critical areas.
Selkaran flow techniques would be employed for complex three-dimensional assembly tasks. The most challenging decision involved draconian strength-based methods.
While Vexai's capabilities were undeniably impressive, integrating them into the workflow required careful planning to ensure that other team members could contribute effectively.
As the workday progressed, Marcus began implementing the hybrid approach. The results were encouraging. Tasks that combined human organizational methods with alien technical expertise proceeded more efficiently than either approach alone.
The Zentorian precision systems achieved remarkable accuracy, but under human scheduling and coordination. Corblaxian stress analysis identified optimization opportunities, but within human safety parameters. The most interesting development occurred when Vexai volunteered to assist with a particularly challenging assembly task. The job involved positioning a massive structural component in a confined space where mechanical equipment couldn't operate effectively. Human methods would have required partially disassembling nearby structures to create access for lifting platforms. Instead, Vexai simply maneuvered herself into the confined space and manually positioned the component. The task that would have taken hours using conventional methods was completed in minutes. More importantly, she worked in coordination with human supervisors who provided guidance on positioning and alignment while she handled the physical manipulation. Efficient cooperation, Vexai commented after completing the task. Human planning combined with draconian capabilities produces superior results to either approach alone. Marcus was pleased by the acknowledgement. That's exactly what I was hoping to achieve. Each species contributes their strengths while working within a coordinated framework. The success of the hybrid approach began to change the attitudes of other alien supervisors. Instead of viewing human methods as obstacles to overcome, they started to see them as organizing principles that could enhance their own capabilities. Engineer Piptar approached Marcus later in the day with a suggestion. Foreman Chen, I believe we can optimize the integration of Zentorian precision methods with your human coordination systems. Would you be interested in a formal collaboration proposal? Absolutely, Marcus replied. What do you have in mind? We could establish precision checkpoints throughout the construction process where Zentorian sensors verify alignment and positioning. This would catch potential problems early while maintaining your overall scheduling approach. Marcus recognized the value of the suggestion. Early detection of alignment problems could prevent major rework later in the project. Let's implement a trial version and see how it works. As the day shift ended, Marcus reviewed the progress reports with growing satisfaction. The integration of alien techniques within human organizational frameworks was producing measurable improvements in efficiency and quality. More importantly, the alien supervisors were beginning to work collaboratively rather than competitively. However, he also noticed that the improvements were generating attention from station authority. His communication queue contained several messages requesting detailed reports on the innovative construction methodologies being employed on the project. Apparently, word of the successful integration was spreading through the galactic construction community. Marcus realized that the success of his hybrid approach could have implications far beyond this single project. If human organizational methods could effectively integrate alien technical capabilities, it might establish a new model for galactic construction projects. This could significantly enhance humanity's role in the galactic economy and establish precedents for future collaborative efforts. But success also brought new pressures. If the project succeeded dramatically, expectations would be raised for future human-led projects. If it failed after showing such promise, it would be seen as evidence that human leadership was fundamentally inadequate for galactic-scale operations. As Marcus prepared his daily reports, he reflected on the challenges and opportunities ahead. The demonstrations had shown him the remarkable capabilities that different species brought to construction work, but they had also highlighted the importance of effective coordination and integration. Human methods might not be the most sophisticated in any particular area, but they seem to provide a framework for bringing diverse capabilities together effectively. The next phase of the project would test whether this early success could be sustained through more complex and demanding construction tasks. Marcus was cautiously optimistic, but he also knew that the real challenges lay ahead. The alien supervisors had proven they could work within human frameworks, but would they continue to do so when faced with serious problems or setbacks? The answer would determine not just the success of New Harmony Station, but the future role of humanity in galactic construction projects. Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility, but he also felt more confident than ever that human leadership could prove itself worthy of galactic respect. As he left the construction site for the day, Marcus took one last look at the progress they had made. The massive structure was beginning to take recognizable shape, with human organizational principles and alien technical capabilities working together to create something neither could have achieved alone. It was a promising start, but the most challenging work still lay ahead. 3 weeks after the successful integration of alien techniques began, Marcus faced the biggest challenge of the entire project. The primary support ring, a massive circular structure that would form the backbone of New Harmony Station's rotating habitat section, needed to be assembled in a single continuous operation. The ring consisted of 48 individual segments, each weighing approximately 5 tons and requiring precise alignment to within millimeters. The complexity of the task had originally been scheduled to take 2 weeks using conventional human methods. Multiple teams would work simultaneously around the ring's circumference, carefully positioning and connecting each segment while maintaining perfect circular alignment. It was the kind of operation that required absolute precision and flawless coordination between dozens of workers. Marcus stood on the central observation platform, studying the holographic display that showed the planned assembly sequence. Around him, supervisors from 8 different species reviewed their assigned sections and prepared their teams for the operation. The tension was palpable. Everyone understood that success or failure on this task would largely determine the overall project outcome. Foreman came engineer Piptar's voice through the comm system. Zentorian precision analysis indicates that cumulative alignment errors could exceed acceptable tolerances if we proceed with 48 simultaneous installation points. We recommend reducing to 24 installation points with double precision verification at each step. Marcus frowned as he studied the analysis. Piptar was probably right about the precision requirements, but reducing the number of simultaneous installation points would extend the timeline significantly. They were already operating with minimal schedule margin. How much additional time would that require? Marcus asked. Approximately 6 additional days for the modified sequence, Piptar replied. However, the probability of successful completion increases from 67% to 94%. Before Marcus could respond, Supervisor Thokran's crystalline voice interrupted. Korblaxian stress modeling shows that sequential installation creates dynamic loading problems. Ring segments will experience unbalanced stress during partial completion, potentially causing structural deformation.
Marcus pulled up the stress analysis on his display. The Korblaxian calculations were complex, but the conclusion was clear: installing the ring segments sequentially rather than simultaneously could create stress patterns that might damage the partially completed structure. "What do you recommend?" Marcus asked. "Simultaneous installation of all segments within a 4-hour window," Foreman replied. "This minimizes stress accumulation and ensures optimal structural integrity." Engineer Piptar's response was immediate. 4-hour simultaneous installation is impossible given precision requirements.
Zentorian analysis clearly demonstrates the mathematical impossibility of maintaining alignment tolerances under such time pressure. Marcus realized that he was facing exactly the kind of interspecies technical disagreement that could paralyze the project. Each species was offering recommendations based on their own areas of expertise, but their conclusions were mutually contradictory.
"Hold on," Marcus said firmly. "Let me consult with all supervisors before we make any final decisions." He activated a general comm channel. "All supervisors report to the central platform for emergency planning session. We need to resolve the ring assembly approach before we proceed." Within minutes, representatives from all 8 species had gathered on the platform. Marcus looked at the assembled group and realized that this moment would define his effectiveness as a leader. He needed to find a solution that addressed everyone's concerns while maintaining project feasibility. "We have conflicting technical recommendations," Marcus began. "Zentorian analysis says we need more time for precision. Korblaxian analysis says we need less time to prevent stress problems. I want to hear all perspectives before we make a decision." Supervisor GLY Tar was the first to speak. "Cell-Karen flow state analysis suggests a completely different approach. Instead of installing ring segments individually, we could use coordinated current generators to position all segments simultaneously in a single fluid motion. This would address both precision and timing concerns." Marcus studied the Cell-Karen proposal on his display. It was an elegant concept, but it would require precise coordination of forces around the entire ring circumference. "What's the risk assessment for that approach?" "Minimal risk if properly executed," GLY Tar replied. "However, it requires perfect synchronization of 48 current generators and real-time adjustment based on flow dynamics. One miscalculation could result in collision between multiple segments." Supervisor Vexhai had been unusually quiet during the discussion, but now she stepped forward. "All these approaches overcomplicate the problem," she announced. "Draconian analysis suggests a much simpler solution." "Which is?" Marcus asked. Vexhai gestured toward the ring assembly area. "Direct physical installation by Draconian teams. For Draconians can manually position and align all 48 segments within the required timeframe while maintaining perfect precision. No mechanical aids, no complex coordination sequences, no risk of equipment failure." The platform fell silent as the other supervisors considered Vexhai's proposal. Marcus realized that once again, the Draconian supervisor was suggesting that her species' raw physical capabilities could replace complex technological solutions. Engineer Piptar was the first to object. "Impossible. Even Draconian strength cannot precisely manipulate 48 5-ton segments simultaneously. The mathematical requirements for positioning accuracy exceed individual physical capabilities." Vexhai's crest spines extended in what Marcus recognized as confident amusement. "Engineer Piptar, your species excels at precise manipulation of small objects. Draconians excel at precise manipulation of large objects. For coordinated Draconians can achieve positioning accuracy equal to your quantum sensors." Supervisor Thakran's light pattern shifted to indicate skepticism. "Draconian strength is impressive, but stress analysis shows that manual manipulation of ring segments creates unpredictable force vectors. The structural loading becomes chaotic rather than controlled." "Only if the manipulation is clumsy," Vexhai replied. "Experienced Draconians can control force application with mathematical precision. We have built structures using these techniques for thousands of years." Marcus found himself in the familiar position of mediating between conflicting alien approaches.
Each species was convinced that their method was superior, but none of them seemed willing to consider hybrid solutions that might combine multiple approaches.
What if we used elements from all approaches? Marcus suggested.
Zentorian precision monitoring, Korblaxian stress analysis, Selkaran flow coordination, and draconian physical manipulation, all integrated under human project management.
The supervisors looked skeptical.
Engineer Piptar spoke for the group. Foreman Chen, integrating 4 different technical approaches would create coordination complexity far beyond anything previously attempted.
The probability of successful execution approaches 0. Marcus pulled up the project timeline on the main display. Look, we have 48 hours before we miss our critical deadline for this phase.
If we don't complete the ring assembly by then, the entire project timeline collapses.
We need a solution that works, even if it's complex.
Supervisor Vexhai studied the timeline display for several moments before speaking.
Foreman Chen, I have a proposal. Allow me to demonstrate draconian assembly capabilities on a test section. If we can prove that direct physical manipulation meets your precision and timing requirements, will you consider allowing us to handle the full installation?
Marcus was intrigued by the offer, but he was also wary of putting the entire project at risk based on a single demonstration.
What kind of test are you proposing? Give me 12 ring segments. I will assemble them into a quarter circle section using only draconian physical techniques.
If we meet your precision tolerances and time requirements, you allow us to handle the full ring installation. The other supervisors immediately began objecting. Engineer Piptar insisted that the demonstration should include Zentorian precision verification.
Supervisor Thakran demanded Korblaxian stress monitoring. Supervisor GL wanted to incorporate Selkaran flow dynamics.
Marcus raised his hand for silence.
Here's what we're going to do.
Supervisor Vexhai will conduct her demonstration, but it will include monitoring and verification from all other species.
If the demonstration succeeds according to everyone's standards, we'll use a coordinated approach for the full installation.
If it fails, we'll fall back to conventional human methods regardless of timeline implications.
It was a high-stakes gamble, but Marcus felt it was the only way to move forward.
The alien supervisors agreed to the test conditions, though some were clearly skeptical about the likelihood of success.
Vexhai selected 3 other draconian workers to assist with the demonstration.
Marcus watched with fascination as the 4 massive beings communicated in their native language, apparently coordinating their approach to the task. Their conversation involved complex gestures and posture changes that conveyed information beyond what their words alone could express. The test section consisted of 12 ring segments arranged around a quarter of the plan circle. Each segment needed to be positioned precisely and connected to its neighbors with perfect alignment. The tolerance requirements were exactly the same as those for the full ring assembly. Zentorian engineers positioned their quantum sensors around the test area to monitor positioning accuracy in real time.
Korblaxian analysts prepared their stress detection equipment to track force distributions throughout the assembly process. Selkaran technicians activated current generators to measure flow dynamics around the installation site.
Marcus activated his chronometer as Vexhai and her team approached the first ring segment.
What happened next defied everything Marcus thought he knew about construction physics.
The 4 draconians moved with a coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Each one positioned themselves at a different point around the ring segment, and together they lifted the 5-ton structure as easily as humans might lift a small table. But the precision of their movements was what truly amazed Marcus.
As they carried the segment toward its installation point, the draconians made constant micro-adjustments to their positioning.
Marcus could see on the Zentorian displays that they were maintaining alignment tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters, despite the enormous mass they were manipulating.
The first segment was positioned and locked into place in less than 3 minutes. The Zentorian sensors confirmed perfect alignment.
The Korblaxian stress monitors showed optimal force distribution. The Selkaran flow detectors indicated smooth, controlled movement throughout the process. Marcus stared at his chronometer in disbelief. If they maintained this pace, the Draconians could complete the entire quarter circle in less than 40 minutes, compared to the 6 hours that conventional methods would require.
But the real test came as they progressed to subsequent segments.
Each new piece needed to align perfectly with the previously installed segments while maintaining the precise curvature required for the complete ring. The cumulative precision requirements became more demanding with each addition. The Draconians adapted their technique as they worked. For segments that required particularly precise alignment, they moved more slowly and made additional micro-adjustments. For segments with more tolerance, they increased their pace. Throughout the process, they maintained constant communication with each other through their complex gestural language. Marcus found himself watching Vexhai in particular. The massive Draconian supervisor seemed to be conducting the entire operation through subtle body language cues that directed her teammates' actions. She would shift her posture slightly, and the other Draconians would adjust their positioning accordingly. She would change her grip on a segment, and they would modify their lifting technique. It was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance performed by beings who could manipulate multi-ton objects as easily as humans might handle paperweights. As the demonstration progressed, Marcus noticed that the other alien supervisors were becoming increasingly impressed. Engineer Piptar's crest feathers were standing at attention, and what Marcus had learned indicated amazement. Supervisor Thokran's light patterns were shifting through rapid cycles that suggested excitement or disbelief. The 8th segment installation marked the halfway point of the demonstration, and Marcus checked his chronometer. 24 minutes elapsed, with positioning accuracy that exceeded even the Zentorian requirements. If they maintained this pace, they would complete the quarter circle in less than 50 minutes. But, then, something unexpected happened. As Vexhai and her team approached the 9th segment, one of the previously installed pieces began to shift slightly. The movement was subtle, barely detectable to human senses, but the Corblaxian stress monitors immediately detected the change in force distribution. "Warning," announced Supervisor Thokran. "Segment 4 is experiencing stress migration. Structural integrity may be compromised." Marcus felt his heart sink. If the demonstration failed due to structural problems, it would validate all the arguments about why alien techniques couldn't be trusted for critical construction tasks. But Vexhai didn't seem concerned. She gestured to her teammates, and they immediately modified their approach to the 9th segment installation. Instead of simply positioning the new piece, they coordinated their movements to apply corrective forces to the shifted segment while simultaneously installing the new one. Marcus watched in amazement as the 4 Draconians essentially performed structural adjustment and new installation simultaneously. They were making real-time corrections to problems that conventional methods would require stopping work to address. "Stress distribution normalized," announced Supervisor Thokran, his voice carrying a note of surprise. "Segment 4 has returned to optimal alignment." The demonstration continued with the Draconians adapting their techniques to address each new challenge. When Segment 11 required installation in a confined space that would normally require specialized equipment, they simply repositioned themselves to work around the constraints. When the final segment needed perfect closure with the first segment to complete the circle, they spent extra time ensuring absolute precision. When Vexhai's team installed the 12th and final segment, Marcus checked his chronometer, 47 minutes and 38 seconds. The quarter circle was complete, with precision that exceeded the project requirements and timing that was far better than any alternative method could achieve. But, more importantly, Marcus had witnessed something that changed his understanding of what was possible in construction work. The Draconians hadn't just demonstrated superior strength, they had shown an almost intuitive understanding of structural dynamics and force management that allowed them to perform multiple complex operations simultaneously. "Demonstration complete," Vexhai announced calmly. "All segments installed within required tolerances. Time, 47 minutes, 38 seconds. Shall we proceed with the full ring installation?" Marcus looked at the other supervisors, all of whom were studying their monitoring displays with expressions of amazement or disbelief. Engineer Piptar was the first to speak. Precision measurements confirmed compliance with all Zentorian requirements. Installation accuracy exceeds quantum sensor specifications. Supervisor Thokran's light patterns had stabilized into what Marcus recognized as impressed approval. Stress analysis shows optimal force distribution throughout the installed section. Structural integrity is perfect. Supervisor GL Whitar's translation system conveyed what might have been aquatic laughter.
Flow dynamics were smoother than our best current generation equipment could achieve. The Draconians moved those segments like they were swimming through water.
Marcus realized that he was facing a historic moment. The demonstration had proven that draconian physical capabilities could exceed the best technological solutions that other species had developed. But, more than that, it had shown the potential for achieving results that no single approach could accomplish. Supervisor Vexi, Marcus said formally, I'm authorizing full draconian installation of the primary support ring, with monitoring and verification support from all other species.
Can your team handle the complete 48-segment assembly?
Vexi's crest spines shifted into what Marcus now recognized as confident satisfaction. Foreman Shen, we can complete the full ring installation in less than 4 hours with precision that will exceed your most demanding requirements.
However, I have a proposal that might interest you.
What kind of proposal? Allow the other species to contribute their specialized capabilities during our installation.
Zentorian sensors can provide real-time precision feedback. Corblaxian analysis can monitor stress patterns and predict problems before they occur. Selkaran flow coordination can optimize the movement patterns for maximum efficiency. Human project management can coordinate the overall operation.
Marcus was surprised by the suggestion. Throughout the project, Vexi had consistently argued for the superiority of draconian methods over collaborative approaches. This was the first time she had voluntarily proposed working with other species.
You're suggesting a fully integrated approach? Marcus asked.
I am suggesting that this demonstration has proven something important, Vexi replied. Individual species excellence can be enhanced through coordinated cooperation. Draconians can provide the physical capabilities, but other species can provide supporting technologies that make our work even more effective.
Engineer Piptar stepped forward eagerly.
Zentorian precision systems can provide continuous feedback during installation, allowing real-time optimization of positioning accuracy.
Supervisor Thakran's light pattern shifted to indicate enthusiasm.
Corblaxian stress analysis can predict optimal force application patterns for each segment, reducing structural loading and improving installation speed.
Supervisor GLYTAR's translation system conveyed excitement. Selkaran flow dynamics can calculate optimal movement paths that minimize energy expenditure while maximizing precision.
Marcus realized that the demonstration had accomplished something beyond proving draconian capabilities. It had shown all the species that collaboration could enhance rather than diminish their individual strengths. The competitive dynamic that had characterized the early phases of the project was transforming into genuine cooperation.
All right, Marcus said, making a decision that he knew would define the rest of the project. We're going to attempt the full ring installation using integrated species capabilities under human coordination. Supervisor Vexi will lead the physical installation with her team.
All other species will provide specialized support according to their areas of expertise. I'll coordinate the overall operation and maintain timeline management. The next 4 hours would test everything Marcus had learned about leadership, coordination, and the potential for human-alien cooperation. As he began planning the most complex construction operation he had ever attempted, he felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension.
Success would establish new precedents for galactic construction projects. Failure would set back human involvement in galactic engineering for decades.
But, as he looked at the alien supervisors working together to plan their coordinated approach, Marcus felt more confident than he had at any point since the project began. They weren't just following his orders anymore, they were actively collaborating to achieve a common goal. That transformation, more than any technological advancement, might prove to be the most significant achievement of the entire project.